It's safe to say that 2025 has been absolutely crazy. It feels like things get worse every single day. Every time I look at a headline, it's like it gets more and more absurd. We have things like scientists discovering the 8th lost continent, or volcano sharks, yes, that's actually real, or somehow there's caves with over 100,000 spiders in it. And there's many, many more things like just, I don't know, stupid or dangerous things or memes that people made up that are just absolutely ridiculous. At this rate, I don't even know if we're going to make it to 2026. We might genuinely be cooked. Now, with all that being said, what are we going to do with all this information? Well, of course, we're going to make a tier list. How does this help? It doesn't. Jokes aside, we're going to rank all of these events based on how absolutely insane they are. S being the absolute worst, and F being, meh, whatever, we're probably going to be fine. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual tier list. Starting off with possibly the most dangerous thing on this whole entire tier list, the 6-7 meme. If you thought the bubonic plague was bad, this is much, much worse. This is a widespread infection across the whole entire planet, and it's the worst thing to ever happen on Earth. It truly is. If you even mutter the words 6 or 7 in the same sentence, a wild child will appear right next to you and start flaring his arms up in a constant state. It's like his brain is gone, and the only thing he thinks about is 6 or 7 across his whole entire mindscape. And this all started because a little blonde boy in middle school said 6-7 at a basketball game, and the internet took it and made it the most brain-rotted thing of all time. This is dangerous and it needs to stop. With that being said, this goes in S tier and this needs to be destroyed. It's not funny. Next up, we have a cave where 100,000 plus spiders were found. So apparently archaeologists discovered a cave in Europe where there's over 100,000 plus spiders. I know that sounds terrifying, but don't worry, it actually gets worse. Not only did they find over 100,000 spiders, but they also found a web that spans over 2,000 plus square feet, and that is the size of a small house. So apparently these spiders have been living in this cave for 1,000 plus years, and there's 2 separate species that were previously hostile to each other in this cave, which means they teamed up to conquer this whole entire cave. And I know your first thought's like, let's burn them all, because that's my first thought too, but I'll do you a solid, right? That's too many spiders, so how about we just nuke it, because that's just too many spiders. Jokes aside, if you ever go to this cave, it's located in Albania, by the way, have some fun. Do not shine a light in these spiders' faces. They have been living in darkness for thousands of years, so you're making yourself a moving target. In other words, you would be cooked. Now, even though this seems like an absolute nightmare, having 100,000 plus spiders in one singular space, if you never go to the cave, you'll be absolutely fine. And even if they escape somehow, it's not like they're gonna, I don't know, extinct the whole entire human race. We should be fine, at least hopefully. Now, with all that being said, let's put this in like C tier because it's not that much of a threat, but it is kind of cool to think about. So yeah. Next up on the list, we have scientists discovering the 8th continent. This continent is called Zealandia, and it's located right under New Zealand. It's also completely submerged underwater. Isn't that crazy? You know what else is crazy is that this continent is 7 times larger than Texas. Also, scientists have been studying this continent for about 5 years now and have concluded this is the 8th lost continent. They have also concluded that it used to be a part of a supercontinent called Gondwana, which is all the way 85 to 90 million years ago. After studying it, they realized that this wasn't just any part of the sunken ocean, but rather a place that used to have thriving life on it and even broken structures. You're probably wondering, how did this supercontinent even break apart in the first place? Well, you know, it's over like a series of continental rifts, hippity hoopla. It was millions of years, the shit broke apart, who cares? We're gonna put this in B tier because it is a crazy discovery and it is pretty awesome, but it's not too dangerous, so B tier. Next up on the list, we have someone who built a real-life animatronic, possibly a killer animatronic, and he goes by the name of Citra on TikTok. This animatronic that he's building is over 10 feet tall, and guess what? He also has spring locks just like the game. What a surprise. You know what else is crazy? His name is named Nosy and he looks like a bunny. If this man isn't building Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I'm not sure what exactly he's building. But the creator was asked a couple of questions about this animatronic. One was, what's the plan for him after you finish the animatronic? And he says, let it out. All he said was, let it out. What do you mean, let it out? He was also asked another question. Hey, is he going to be friendly? And he says, I don't know yet. What do you mean you don't know yet? How are you not sure? What? If you take a look at the blueprint he made of his animatronic called Nosy, you'd think this is complete nightmare fuel because it is genuinely one of the scariest things you've ever seen, and it's literally Five Nights at Freddy's in real life. This guy Citra is building this animatronic in Florida, by the way. Of course it's coming from Florida. All the crazy things do, right? But how about we keep it in Florida? Because if he comes out, he might actually have a potential of actually killing someone. Why is he building a killer animatronic? With all that being said, we're putting him in A tier because this is genuinely dangerous, and somebody stop this guy and put him on watch. How is this even legal? The next topic/event we have on this list is UFOs, or in this case, a UFO that is able to dodge/bounce off missiles fired from the US military. All of this footage/images you're seeing is caught by a US Reaper drone off the coast of Yemen, and for some reason there was a glowing orb around Yemen. Obviously wasn't supposed to be there, so they fired a Hellfire missile at it, which is one of the most destructive missiles in the US military, and it simply just bounced off this unidentified object flying around in the sky. So basically there was a UFO in the sky, or some type of glowing ship in the sky. They fired a missile at it, one of the most destructive missiles of all time, aka a Hellfire missile, and it just simply bounced off. That is one of the most terrifying things I've ever heard in my life. They have ships where they can just bounce missiles off? What? Not only is this terrifying, but it's 100% dangerous. There could be aliens out there with ships that can just dodge missiles or just have missiles bounce off. They have some type of gravity hacks or whatever that is to bounce missiles off their ships. With that being said, this is going in S tier because this could be a humongous problem in the future. Aliens with, oh my god, bouncing missiles off ships, I don't know, whatever, S tier. The next event on this tier list, or in this case a debate, is the 100 men versus 1 gorilla debate. Oh boy. I'm really not sure why this was a debate to begin with and why it was so popular in 2025, but here we are talking about it. Can 100 men beat 1 gorilla? Well, the short answer is yes, and the long answer is also yes. Now, don't get me wrong, a gorilla weighs 500 pounds and is 10 times stronger than a human, but people don't seem to understand that this man is 500 pounds. He's gonna destroy maybe the first couple of guys, but there's 100 men. He's gonna run out of stamina in like 2 seconds and get clapped. The main issue with this debate, besides the gorilla's stamina, is who's going to be the first couple of guys to take one for the team. Because I'd say about 5 guys have to, basically get eliminated, get one punch torn in half for the other men to just take over the gorilla and actually win. So if none of them decide to do that, and I know I wouldn't, I guess the gorilla has potential of winning, right? Now, even though this would be like somewhat dangerous, I don't see this ever really happening, nor is this like a plausible thing that would happen in real life. Like, what type of situation would 100 men need to beat like 1 gorilla, right? So with that being said, we're going to put this in D tier because it's not that dangerous and the men would easily win, get cooked. This also made me mad, so it goes in D tier. Next up on the list, we have Volcano Sharks, and yes, I'm serious. So scientists just discovered over 200 sharks swimming in an underwater volcano. What? Now, this could actually be extremely dangerous, not for the sharks themselves, but only because the volcanoes could possibly erupt and, well, destroy the marine ecosystem, which is a really big deal. Now, this is obviously pretty bad, and this is one of the few genuine things that's an actual threat on this list. So with that being said, we're going to put this at A tier because it is pretty detrimental. So yeah, hopefully this doesn't happen. But volcano sharks are pretty crazy for real though. Continuing on with the topic of sharks, we actually have the Megalodon being discovered to be bigger than it originally was. So originally scientists thought the Megalodon was only 50 feet long, but now apparently they discovered that the Megalodon was 80 feet long, which is the size of 3 school buses. Sharks were already scary enough, and the fact that there were 80-foot long sharks back like a million bajillion years ago makes me want to crap my pants. But anyway, all the Megalodons are dead anyway, or most likely extinct. So with that being said, we're going to put this in F tier because it's not really a threat because, well, they aren't alive anymore, so we're good. Next up, we have another alien spaceship sighting, except this one seems a little less dangerous in my opinion. This image/video most likely looks to be fake, and plus we see alien spaceship sightings all the time, and most of them are kind of BS and, well, pretty much are fake. So with that being said, we're still going to put this in like D tier because it's probably not that dangerous, and it's not like the other one that could dodge a literal Hellfire missile, so we seem to be good. And finally, we have our last topic, which is 2 massive black holes colliding. Both of these black holes were 100 times larger than the sun itself. We have no idea how they actually got this big, well, because they're not supposed to. And to make matters worse, they were moving at the highest possible speeds that physics allowed them to be, which, if you didn't know, is light speed. This was a light speed collision between 2 massive black holes that are 100 times larger than the sun itself. They're not even supposed to get that big. But not only that, but it actually caused ripples throughout space-time itself. And luckily, we only felt about 0.1 seconds of the shockwaves, otherwise we would have been cooked and the Earth would have been actually destroyed. Now, this is by far probably the most dangerous thing on the list, considering the Earth was almost destroyed if we felt just 1 more inch of that black hole collision, right? So with that being said, we're going to put this at S tier because that is way too dangerous. Let's hope it never happens again. Well, that's pretty much it for the 2025 tier list. Now, there was so many crazy things that happened and so many, not so crazy things that happened, but overall we ranked them pretty good. I thought this list was pretty fantastic. Now, with that being said, I want you to take all this information with a grain of salt because most of the stuff on this list is kind of somewhat like over-exaggerated in a sense, but don't get it wrong. This stuff is all actually based on real fact and is somewhat true. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this 2025 tier list. I don't know if we're actually going to make it to 2026. We might just be cooked considering there's all these black hole collisions and I don't know, maybe some aliens that'll pop up, but hopefully we do make it to 2026. And with that being said, see y'all later, man.